Jai to all and welcome to your own YouTube channel. I'm Indy the Futurist. Today's update is on Donald Trump and how the entire world is reacting on his illegal immigration stance. Stay tuned till the end as I have also done the economic analysis of this major step. How the business will be affected globally. How is it going to influence the labor market? So stay tuned. Now, the global reaction to Donald Trump's stance on illegal immigration has been varied, reflecting a broad spectrum of opinions, concerns, and criticisms. Here's an overview based on some available information, what I have got gathered and researched. When we talk about Latin America, in Mexico, Colombia, Brazil, there's a significant discontent in Latin America countries, especially those directly affected by US immigration policies. Now, leaders and citizens, they have expressed frustration over the treatment of their nationals, including the use of aggressive deportation tactics like shackling. There's also a sense of regional solidarity against these policies, with some countries preparing for potential retaliation or measures or advocating for the rights of their citizens abroad. Mexico, the Mexican government has shown a complex response balancing between cooperation for economic stability and criticisms of specific US policies. The Mexican president, for instance, has emphasized not closing borders and respecting human rights. When we talk about Europe, the policy influence, some European commentators, they draw parallels between Trump's policy and the ongoing migrant crisis in Europe, suggesting his approach could serve as a wake-up call for tightening border controls or re-evaluating open border policies. However, the European response is not uniform as countries have their own immigration challenges and policies. Now, these international organizations and leaders, Pope Francis, who is a religious leader, he has criticized Trump's mass deportation plans as a disgrace, highlighting the humanitarian aspect and the burden on the burden of the poor. When we talk about human rights group, the organizations have been vocal about the legal challenges to Trump's immigration policies, arguing they're going to violate constitutional rights and international law. Then when we talk about the ADL Anti-Defamation League, Trump has particularly phrases like poisoning the blood has drawn condemnation for echoing white supremacist and nativist sentiments. Public and political opinion, when we talk about the global surveys, according to Pew Research survey from earlier years, a majority in many countries disapprove of Trump's immigration policies, reflecting a broader international skepticism or opposition to his approach. Now, there have been social media posts on platforms like X shows a range of reactions from outright condemnation to support for stricter immigration controls, illustrating the polarized views even with international public discourse. Now, diplomatic relations, the tariff threats and immigration, there's also an intertwining on immigration policy with broader trade and diplomatic relations, particularly with Mexico and Canada, where Trump has linked immigration control to economic measures like tariffs. Now, when we talk about whether there's going to be cooperation or there's going to be conflict, while some countries might cooperate out of necessity or diplomacy, there's also a pushback or at least public criticism from leaders who see these policies as harmful to their citizens' sovereignty or contrary to international norms on humanitarian rights. Now, there are varied regional and national responses. Latin America unity, there is a growing sense of unity or at least shared concern among Latin American countries, with leaders and civil societies they're rallying in various ways to support their diaspora in US or to protest against harsh immigration practices. Preparedness for deportation, when we see there are countries like Mexico, they have taken logistical steps like building shelters in anticipation of increased deportations, indicating a pragmatic response to the policy shift. Now, with all these geopolitical changes, let's also see how it is going to influence the business, the economic interests, and critical issues associated to it. Now, Donald Trump's immigration policies, particularly those concerning illegal immigration, they have had and are projected to have several effects on US economy. Now, these impacts are often debated with contrasting views on their benefits and drawbacks. Certain analysis, what I have done, which is based on some information, is I'll share with you. When we talk about economic effects, how are we? They are going to be a navigation in the economic effects. There are going to be labor shortages. Industries like agro, construction, hospitality, manufacturing, which rely heavily on immigrant labor, could face significant labor shortages if mass deportations occur. Now, this could lead to higher labor costs and disrupt business operations, potentially slowing down economic growth. Reducing the labor supply can drive up the wages, which while beneficial for employed workers, can also lead to higher production costs and subsequently higher prices for goods and services, contributing to inflation. Then when we see the impact on GDP, the studies suggest that mass deportations could significantly reduce GDP. For instance, one analysis predicts an up to 8% hit to GDP by 2028 under Trump's policies due to a decrease in consumer spending and labor force participation. Then the removal of undocumented immigrants who also contribute as consumers could lead to a drop in demand for goods and services, negatively affecting businesses and economic activity. Now, innovation and entrepreneurship, when we talk about immigration, has been linked to innovation, with immigrants or their children founding a significant portion of US startups. Stricter immigration policies might also reduce this entrepreneurial activity. Now, when we see or when we talk about the positive economic effects, wage increase, for some, there's an argument that reducing the supply of labor might increase the wages for US born workers, particularly in low wage wages sector due to less competition. However, this is also contested, with evidence suggesting that the effect might be minimal or offset by other economic factors. Then there are going to be public services cost. Proponents of stricter immigration policies, they argue that reducing illegal immigration could also decrease the strain on public services like education, healthcare, and even welfare, potentially lowering costs for taxpayers. However, undocumented immigrants, they often do not access many federal benefits, and their economic contribution through taxes, even if they are indirect. They are sometimes overlooked. Now, how is it going to affect the border security investment? The construction of border walls and increased border security has been touted as a way to create jobs in construction and security sectors, although critics question the long term economic benefits versus the cost of it. Then one of the major talked about subject that's topic that's trade and investment. Trump's immigration policies are part of a broader economic strategy that includes protectionism like tariffs, which could influence investor confidence and international trade relations, potentially affecting the economy in complex ways. What is going to be the business sentiment? The uncertainty created by changing immigration policies can affect business planning, investment decisions, and the recruitment of global talent, with some companies considering relocating jobs abroad to bypass immigration restrictions. Now, what's going to be the long term growth? When we talk about immigration, it generally contributes to long term economic growth by expanding the labor force, which can lead to higher productivity and even innovation. Now, policies that significantly curtail immigration could potentially hinder this growth trajectory. Now, when we after understanding having an understanding of all these economic impacts, in conclusion, while some still can argue that Trump's immigration policies might protect American jobs and reduce public expenditure on services, the broader economic consensus leans towards caution, highlighting potential negative impacts like labor shortages, increased inflation, and reduced GDP growth. The complexity of these issues means that economic outcomes depend on numerous variables, including how policies are going to be implemented, the scale of enforcement, and reactions from both domestic and international market. In summary, and we saw this yesterday in the market, tariffs, although budget was also one of the variable, but tariffs majorly play. And in summary, while Trump's stance on illegal immigration has found some domestic support, internationally it has often been met with criticism, concern for human rights, and diplomatic tensions, especially in regions directly impacted by US policies decisions. Now, this reaction underscores the global interconnectedness of immigration issues and the varied impacts of US policy on the international stage. I hope you found this video useful and informative, and thank you so much for your time to watch this video, and do subscribe and share and like our channel and our video. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.